to another interview with El Vocero Hispano. The four-star theater was built in 1938 and it's located between Division Hall and Burton Street on Division Avenue. This building used to host lots of parties, venues. It served as a venue, as a theater, auditorium, much more. But to speak about this, I have Marcus Ringnalda, who is now the owner of this building, and he is hoping to make it into a community center. So thank you for being here with us. It's probably busy renovating the whole building, but...
Thank you for the invitation. I'm happy to sit down with you.
Yeah, so before we speak into how the building is now, can you speak a little bit of the history? I know I mentioned it used to be a concert venue and it served as many other events.
Yep. So the history goes back over 80 years now. It was built in, construction started in 1938 and I think completed in 1939. And for roughly 40 years, it was a movie theater. It sat 900 plus patrons there. I've seen some old photos. They did a little bit more than just films, but it was primarily a movie theater. And then took a significant shift in 1979 when it became a music venue. So it was a dedicated concert venue called the Great Northern Music Hall. And I've talked to a number of people who are in their 60s who remember seeing concerts there. It did host notable acts. People like Joan Jett played there, Hall & Oates played there, Devo, Pat Travers, Eddie Money. I've seen all these old concert posters. So that's a really cool piece of the history as well. And then sometime in the late 80s, it became a nightclub. And it went through various names. At one point it was called the Carnival, so it was this circus-themed nightclub. And then the last known use as a nightclub, I believe, was 1993. The venue was called City Lights, and it had a sister club in the Easttown neighborhood. But that closed down after some complaints and some violent events, and a youth center moved in after that. So those two uses in the 90s are really, those are the last major renovations. But really just being 30 years ago, most of the infrastructure there doesn't take much to get back up and running. So I've been pleasantly surprised at, not a lot of leaking pipes, not a lot of vandalism. So fixing it up has been much more economical than most similar ventures. But from 1995 on, it was no longer a youth center. But the 10 years after that, it was used on and off as a church. And the last known use as a church was 2005. And it's been vacant since then. So I bought the building in 2017. And have been just doing a lot of community engagement about what's going to work in this venue, and that has taken us to where we are today with a goal to rename it back to the Four-Star Theater, which was the original name, and create a world-class cultural arts venue with a focus right in the neighborhood.
And what made you buy this building in the first place? Was it something that you always had in mind, or you just came upon it and...
Yeah, so I worked as a general contractor for a local company here for 15 years, and that ended 3 years ago or so. But working as a general contractor, I worked on old historic buildings all over the state of Michigan, in the Upper Peninsula, Traverse City, Detroit, Jackson, and but I've always been based here in Grand Rapids. So it was when I was working as a general contractor that I was introduced to this building by an architect, Isaac Norris, who I'm still working with on the project today. And he was in touch with a pastor who wanted to convert it to his church. So the feeling I got walking through that space with all the experience I had is like this building is in such good shape. For something that's over 80 years old and that had been vacant for that long. So it just became a building that I couldn't stop thinking about, and the church project never happened, and so it was a leap of faith after that venture failed to talk to my family and say, hey, we're going to buy this building and we're going to figure out how to make it successful. So that was 5 years ago. We're a little behind schedule thanks to the pandemic, but we're at an exciting moment right now.
Okay. And ever since you bought it, what has been happening now? What are some of the works that you guys are doing?
Yeah, so first step was just to kind of diagnose what is in there. We talked about that 90s nightclub vibe. First thing was to find out how much of that worked, and surprisingly, we can still turn on a lot of old lights that if the bulbs aren't burnt out, will still turn on. Make sure everything is safe, make sure pipes aren't leaking. So it's been a few weeks of work with fire suppression contractors and plumbers to check the valves, replace leaking valves. But over the course of the last 5 or 6 months, we have decided we want to get everything up to code to actually open. So in addition to leaking pipes, that's things like a fire alarm system. It's a lot of cleanup. And then we did some retrofitting of all of the old lights. Now we have remote controlled LED lights. Today, actually, we're getting the last of our plumbing fixtures in, so we'll have 2 working bathrooms. And we've done a little paint and patching and just cleaned the place up a little bit.
And when you're renovating and cleaning up, is there anything interesting that you found inside the walls or under the floors?
So it has been for a while. It was Pigeons, the marquee out front, the very iconic big sign there, has been home to pigeons for several decades, and occasionally they make it in the building. And then what I found, where pigeons go, cats would go. So we did have some kittens born there since I've owned it, but we have sealed everything up. We have no more animals getting in, except for the marquee. And no, the biggest surprises have just been hearing the stories of how some of the places used to be used. So there's a cage, a dancing cage that's elevated 15 feet above the stage where dancers used to dance. We've found that one of the what was a bar area actually used to rotate. So we've tried to fix that and haven't quite gotten there yet, but overall it's been just pleasant surprises. I do know when the youth center moved in after the nightclub that they found a lot of interesting things. They're still actually active in the community today, known as Base Camp, and they work with the Guatemalan community quite a bit. So staffers that used to work in the theater have told me they found bullets in the walls and things like that from the nightclub era. But no, our surprises have been only good ones.
Okay, that's interesting to know how a building that you have now, it was used for so many different things. So that's super interesting. And now that you mentioned the community, how can the community kind of get into that building, or how can they connect with it?
Yeah, so we are very active on social media and have a website. We will be building out a volunteer portal. Right now, we, as a startup, we don't have staff yet. So as we start doing events, we will be looking for volunteers to help set up and do teardown. But our goal is to get people to use it, and we're going to be very experimental. So one of our first events planned is just an anniversary party from one of our neighbors there. He ran the barber shop next door, and so what we want to do is kind of work out some of the kinks before we can prepare for bigger and better events. But people in the community, we'd love to host a quinceañera there. And in fact, we are searching for funds through the city of Grand Rapids to help support some of our first programming efforts. So there's something called PBGR that we've applied for that could be significant funding where we would potentially not have to charge for using the venue. But we are a business, and we're looking for people to use the space to put on their own events as well.
And within the building inside, is there something that you're thinking about completely changing, or
yes,
are you trying to
so
keep it the same?
We've talked about the past. It's important to talk about the future. what we are just about to complete in the month of September is what we call phase one. So all of the things I've described to you eventually will probably be replaced or upgraded to create this world-class venue that we envision. So that is a multi-million-dollar construction project that will include an addition for some handicap accessibility, will include very high-quality sound and audio-visual systems so that we can really do movies well and concerts and things like that, that it can once again be that sort of draw for nationally recognized artists and performers. So we need a new roof, we need new mechanical systems, we frankly we need new everything.
Okay.
And that is the hope for the future, but we're just really thrilled to be able to open up and hopefully build partnerships with people now. Short term, we expect to be able to host 250 people, but with those long-term goals, we would bring the occupancy back over 900.
Okay, that's great. So that means more business for all the businesses around there.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the great cases for this. We have some phenomenal restaurants, for example, and I can envision their best nights being when we're hosting 900 people at the theater and we're overflowing the restaurants and hopefully creating opportunities for new ones.
And that's also bringing more people to come to our city and to come see this historic building that we're now renovating. So.
Yeah, right now, I mean, Division Avenue by Burton Street just feels like something people just fly through in their cars. Yeah. And we're really hoping it can create a sense of place in the neighborhood and a destination, because for most of the 80 years that it's existed, it has really been an anchor of the Burton Heights neighborhood.
Yeah, for sure. So it's exciting.
Yeah.
When can the community expect to see the building open or to start using it?
Yeah, so towards the end of September, we will start doing official events.
Okay.
One thing we have planned is a Halloween party. So we are starting to book things this fall.
Okay.
We have a few things to work through with the city on permitting before we know the exact date, but it will be sometime here in 2022.
Okay, that's going to be fun and exciting, and I'm ready to see it. So
great.
Is there anything else that you want to let the community know about the building or about yourself?
Just as far as the building and the projects that's planned, we are trying to raise $5 million to achieve that goal. And my history in the city, I've always really been intentional about getting neighbors into that space and getting people hyper-local to have opportunities. So I definitely want people to know that we are being intentional about giving opportunities to the people in the neighborhood we're in. And we've found some incredible partners to help us with phase one. The gentleman who came by last week to help patch up some holes, he lives 2 blocks away. Okay. Some of the people planning, there's a gospel event planned, they live 1 block away from the theater. So both on the construction side and in the programming side, as a nonprofit and pursuing grant funds, we really want to get people who can walk to the building in the doors and build those partnerships now, because when it's a 900 person venue, there's going to be a different set of demands on it, but we want to build really strong partnerships so that people can prepare events now that might be bigger and better in a couple of years when we're ready for bigger events.
Yeah, and right now when I'm listening to what you're saying right now, it's interesting that the community, or your neighbors, I guess you could say, they're being a part of it too.
Yeah.
So.
I tell you, it's such a unique building. You can just open up the doors and neighbors will walk in. And there's not a lot of buildings where that happens. But because people in the neighborhood see it every day and just, it creates that same sense of excitement that I think I had the first time I walked through. As you walk in and you just start to think about and dream about what could happen in this space. So a lot of days, that's just what I do. I open the doors and I see who walks in, and sometimes it's people who might help, install drywall and paint and flooring. Sometimes it's people who want to plan events there. So it's just a special building, and everything's going to get better from this point forward with us being able to do events.
And one thing before we just end this interview, what could you tell those people that are probably planning on investing in a property and they're just scared to take that first step?
Well, that's a very good question. Start with something that you can see achieving yourself. That's really, now this building, frankly, it's less than most houses cost. And that's what I saw in this building was something that would have cost 10 times more to build than it cost to buy. And so what I saw, I was just a project manager with a general contractor, but I just saw something and I didn't have to think that much bigger. Like it's a $5 million project. Yes, that's big. But a few years back, it might have been me looking at a $500,000 project. So find something that you see the potential in it, and find something that you're very passionate about, and grow it from there. So you definitely have to take that leap of faith and get a little uncomfortable, but develop a sense of recognizing opportunity at a scale that you can handle.
And then I'm also thinking about how long it could take or how quick it could happen. So I don't think it really matters as long as it's achievable. I think anybody can achieve anything.
Yeah, here's the thing that when I'm talking about the contractors or the individuals who do work there, a lot of them are helping out after their day jobs, right? So they'll come in on weekends or in the evenings, and that is a great way to handle a challenging project like this. Is if you need to make all the banks happy and line it up and hire contractors to do something very quickly. When I talk about scale, a lot of that is think about it differently. Think about, again, what you can handle and the people in your network who might be able to help from 3 to 6 p.m. or on weekends, and take on interesting renovation projects like this.
Yeah, so everything's super interesting, and I'm glad that your hands are there and renovating it. So congratulations on that.
Thank you.
And thank you for being here with us.
Thanks for having me.
Letting the community know that the building is there. I think a lot of people probably just drive by it but don't really know what is going on in there. So thank you for sharing all the information.
And just a couple things on contacting us. Again, our website is https://4stargr.com, and that's all spelled out. And then you can see it on my shirt. Theater is spelled a little bit differently, but you can find us on social media under 4-Star Theater, and the application to start using the space. The website for that, 4stargr, and then it's /events-application, and you can reach out to us or just connect on social media and we'll point you in the right direction.
Okay, so just to clarify, the community can now start applying to have that space rented for their parties.
That's correct.
Okay.
Yes.
That's interesting. Okay, so thank you for being here, like I said. And if you guys want to know more information about the 4-Star Theater, we do have their Facebook page, which is 4-Star Theater, and their website, 4-Star Theater, or 4stargr.org.
4stargr.com.
Sorry. And like you mentioned, there's an application available, so you can start planning your parties there and renting it. So for more information about that, we can have that on Facebook. You can follow them on Facebook as well. For more interviews in English and Spanish, you can follow us on Facebook, Vocero Hispano, and on YouTube at Vocero Hispano TV, or our website at vocerous.com.